all of us at Beth Tzedec are here for each other. And if there's something that you find that you need or missing, something that you just want to talk, the members of the spiritual leadership team and our lay leadership, we're here. Write us, call us, text us, Zoom us, Skype us. We are accessible in all the ways in which one can be accessible in this day and age. We are continuing to endeavor to call every household in our congregation to check in and to make sure that people are well provided for. As you'll see, I wrote about this and it'll come out on Friday. But as we sat down for the Seder and we read the section Halach Ma'anya, this is the bread of affliction, let all who are hungry come and eat. I knew that from at least the 12 to 1,500 phone calls that we had made at that point, that everyone in our congregation had a roof over their head, had food in their refrigerator, and if they so desired to be connected to another family, either just for regular communication or for a Zoom Seder, they were able to do that. Our community has really done a tremendous job of making sure that in this time of physical distance, the social and spiritual nearness remains an area of connectivity and of deep meaning.
Aaron, 260.
So I want to thank all of certainly my colleagues in the spiritual leadership team and our lay leadership and the almost 90 volunteers that have participated in making that a reality. And we still need more volunteers. We're a large congregation. So if you find you have some time on your hands and you'd like to pick up the phone and call people and just check in as a member of a larger community, please contact Clara Ram or Yaakov Fuchter, and we'll put you on the volunteer list to do so. As we begin, we just want to start with a couple housekeeping items as it relates to Zoom technology. First and foremost, there's a delay in the communication of Zoom in terms of the sound, the way that sound travels. So we are going to keep everyone on mute until we get to the reading of the Mourners Kaddish. At Mourners Kaddish, we are going to unmute the phones and we'll invite everybody to recite Kaddish together in its entirety. And what you'll find is that it'll sound very jumbled because people, though we might be reciting it at a same or similar pace, the way that the sound travels, it sounds very jumbled. But as I like to remind everyone, God, who is the master of the Aleph Bet, can put all those words, of course, into the meditations of our hearts and the thoughts that are in our heads. And so you should be aware of that. If there's background noise around you, please be sensitive to the entire group and silence that background noise while we're going through Yizkor. That's the basic etiquette of Zoom communication and conferencing. What I'd like to do now is ask Rabbi Friar Bodzin to share her screen and to show everyone how you can get to the Yizkor booklet that we create every year that's online. And Rabbi, I'd like you to keep that open when we go through the pages of Yizkor, because that way we can all follow along as well. Rabbi?
Boker Tov. Our website is beth-tzedec.org. If you scroll down, you'll see where it says virtual Yizkor service. So please click there. Then you will see over here where it says to download the Yizkor memorial book. Click here. I noticed a lot of you are on iPads and phones and whatnot. And for some of you, you don't use Zoom all the time, and it might be fun to see everyone's faces. If you can only see the book or the PDF, or if you can see people, I encourage you to take this time to engage with the words that are here.
Thank you, Rabbi. I'm going to leave it to you to be responsible for the pages when we get to Yizkor itself, as the cantor and I will be leading the service. Let me begin by sharing with you a story. This is one of my favorite stories that comes from Jewish tradition. Perhaps it's one that you've heard before in another context. It's the story of a poor tailor named Itzik, who lived in Krakow. And one night, Itzik had a dream. The dream was so vivid. He felt like it wasn't a dream at all, but really a piece of his reality. In that dream, he dreamt of a magnificent bridge in faraway Prague. And buried below that bridge, Itzik dreamed was buried a treasure. Now, Itzik, being of relatively sound mind, he paid no attention to the dream until the next night when he went to sleep. He dreamed yet again of the bridge in Prague and the treasure buried beneath it. What caused him to pay a little more attention this time, however, was his vision of an angel that was descending from heaven, instructing him to go to Prague to receive and retrieve this treasure. But again, Itzik wasn't the type who, just because he had a dream, was going to get up and run away from Krakow to Prague and retrieve a treasure that might not be there at all. Until the following night, the third night, when this dream returned yet again. This time, however, it was not an angel that came down and instructed Itzik to go to Prague, but rather it was God Godself who descended from heaven and instructed him to go and retrieve this treasure beneath a bridge. So in the morning, what could Itzik do except for get up, pack his belongings, and go to Prague? When he arrived, he very quickly found the bridge that he dreamt about. It was exactly as he had imagined it. Excitedly, he ran beneath the bridge and began to dig for treasure. Now you can imagine that it wasn't too long before the king's guard happened upon him and arrested him. After all, who comes to a strange town and starts digging underneath a bridge? "What are you doing under the bridge?" demanded the captain of the guard. "Tell me why I should not execute you as a spy." Itzik pleaded, "Don't be angry with me. I mean no harm. I have only come here because I had this incredible, vivid dream that there was a treasure buried beneath this bridge." The captain of the guard, he couldn't control himself. At this, he started to laugh and laugh and laugh. "You foolish man," he said, "chasing dreams as if they come true. Dreams are for children. Just last night, for example, I had a dream that in Krakow, buried beneath the fireplace of a poor Jew named Itzik, was a buried treasure. Can you imagine if I were to get up and run to Krakow, chasing phantoms?" Still laughing, the captain ordered his men to let Itzik go. Itzik thanked them, and he hurried home, dug beneath his stove, and found a treasure just where the officer said it would be. This story of our tradition cries out for interpretation. And it seems so especially relevant to our circumstance. How many of us overlook the treasures that are in our own home? And how many of us have reflected on how immensely valuable are the relationships of the people that we love. Being isolated at home hopefully gives us a little bit of space for perspective. Having this virus and its rising death toll, 25,000 people infected in Canada, almost 800 deaths. In the United States, over 20,000 deaths, over 100,000 deaths worldwide, almost 2 million people infected, the economy at a standstill. This story comes to remind us of what really matters. Not buried treasure that might be under a bridge in Krakow or under a stove at home, but really the treasure of our relationships. And we feel that especially profoundly here at Pesach, when the custom is to gather those relationships together around our table. And thank God we had technology where if we couldn't be together in person, at least we could be together virtually and share this experience. That's part of what the holidays come to remind us. They remind us of the treasures that are in our lives. And they also remind us of the treasures that are only, or that remain rather, in our memory. The treasure of family members, of parents, children, siblings, friends, community leaders, teachers, whoever it was, the treasure of relationships that impacted us and helped shape us to become the people who we are and the values that we hold dear. Yizkor is about the stories of the lives they lived, which is why I was especially struck by a section in Saturday's edition of the Toronto Star, in which the newspaper is collecting the stories of all the people in Canada that have died as a result of COVID-19. As I said, we tend to only think about this because the news gives us, the daily tolls. 25,000 people infected is a big number. Almost 800 people dying is a big number. It's sometimes hard to fathom what those numbers mean in terms of human experience with regard to the Holocaust. That's why a non-Jewish town in South Carolina did the paperclip project, because how do you take a large number that seems so amorphous and impersonal and make it real, something that a human being can understand? And so I'm struck by the project of the Star, which reminds me of what the New York Times did after 9/11, in which it published a book, portraits of the lives of the more than 3,000 people who died after 9/11, that the goal of the Toronto Star is to eventually publish a book of the portraits of the lives of those who have died from COVID-19, many of whom already are connected, at least, to members of our congregation. There are no specific deaths of the congregation that we know of at this moment, though we do know members of the congregation and extended family members that are diagnosed with the disease at this time. And so I thought that as a way of introducing Yizkor and to help us to think about the stories of the people whose lives we remember this day, that we would also pause for a moment and reflect a little bit on some of the people who perhaps we know, but perhaps not, but some of the hundreds of Canadians who've died during the coronavirus pandemic. There's Sean Algar, for example, who's 34, from Gruard, Alberta. He was known as a jokester. The much loved husband, father, son, brother, and uncle could make anyone laugh. One of his favorite moves was to take pictures of people eating and jokingly post them to Facebook. This was one of the ways he liked to bug people. His sister, Candace, said, but Augur, who died of COVID-19 on March 30, took seriously his obligations to his family, including his wife, Jennifer, and 3 kids, and to the at-risk youth he worked with. He was a role model in every aspect of his life. He was a transition worker at a youth assessment center in High Prairie and a devoted fan of the Edmonton Oilers, coached hockey in his downtime. My brother was an amazing man, said his sister. His dream was to open up a group home in the hamlet of Gruard in northern Alberta, where he was from. His sister says his family hopes to continue that work in his memory. There's also Samina Rosenberg, or Zema Rosenberg, who was 101 years old when he died of COVID. He was born in a small village in Ukraine in 1919. As a teenager, he enlisted with the Soviet Red Army to fight the Nazis during the Second World War. He served in the anti-air unit in Azerbaijan. He was always smiling and happy, said Greg, his grandson. He was a humble, honest, and honorable man. He'll be greatly missed. What better epithet for a person can there be for that? Humble, honest, and honorable. Finally, let me just share a reflection on Gene Goldman, who is the brother of our member Murray Goldman and uncle of our member David Goldman. Gene was 88. He was a real estate broker born in Glace Bay, Nova Scotia in 1931. He was known for his fun-loving demeanor and propensity for practical jokes. He was a total ham, remembered Michael, his son. He was always the loudest in the room and had a mischievous side to him too. He narrowly avoided death on several occasions, Michael said. He was thrown out of a moving truck on his high school prom night. That's a story I want to hear. And once fell into a sea of electric jellyfish. That's one I would rather not hear about. It took an entire global pandemic to kill him, said Michael. Gene Goldman died from COVID-19 on April 3 after returning from a trip to Florida with his wife, Ruth, who tragically died 4 days earlier. It's important to remember as we go through this time that we're talking about people. These numbers sometimes can be overwhelming, but at the end of the day, each number is a name, and each name is a memory. That's what Yad Vashem is really about. It's about a name and a memorial. It's a reminder that when we think about world events that have this kind of global impact, we should take the time to also remember the stories of the lives lived and express condolences and support to those whose cup right now is filled only with memory. And that's the cup of Yizkor. We come to remember. We come to remember the stories of those people who impacted our lives, the people who formed for us a treasure that was not buried, but was really expressed in relationship and impact throughout the years. We invite you to rise as we'll turn now to the pages and the service of Yizkor, of memory. Keep going to the first bracha in the Hebrew. There we go. Scroll down a little bit there. Chazan, if you would, please.
Can we make sure people see this? Can you guys put your thumbs up or for a second? Do people see this? Maybe nod your head. Okay, thanks.
Cantor?
Ben Enosh ותחשבהו אדם להבל דמה ים כצל עובר בבוקר יציץ וחלף, לערב ימולא ויבש. תשב אנוש עד דקה, ותאמר שובו בני אדם. שוב אדוני עד מתי, והנחם על עבדיך.
Eternal, what is human life that you should care about it? Mere mortals that you should think of them. People are like a breath. Our days are like a passing shadow. At daybreak it flourishes anew, by dusk it withers and dries up. You return people to dust. You decree, return, you mortals. Turn, O Eternal One, how long? Show mercy to your servants. We'll continue responsively in the English. I invite you to recite the italicized words in your own home. There is a time for everything. There is a time for all things under the sun. A time to be born, and a time to die. A time to laugh, and a time to cry. A time to dance, and a time to mourn. A time to seek, and a time to lose. A time to forget, and a time to remember. This day in sacred convocation, we remember those who gave us life. This day we remember those who enriched our life with love,
beauty, kindness and compassion, thoughtfulness and understanding.
This day we renew the bonds that bind us to those who have gone the way of all the earth. As we
reflect on those whose memory moves us this day, we seek consolation and the strength and the insight born of faith.
Tender as a parent with children, the Eternal is merciful with us. God knows how we are affected. God remembers that we are dust. The days of people are as grass. We flourish as a flower in the field. The wind passes over it and it is gone, but no one can recognize where it grew. But God's compassion for us, divine righteousness to children's children, remain age after age unchanging. 70 our years may number. 80 years have granted the vigor. Laden with trouble and travail, life quickly passes, it flies away. Teach us to use all of our days, O God, that we may attain a heart of wisdom. Grant us your love in the morning, that we may joyously sing all our days.
Shiviti Adonai, v'negdi tabi, ki mimini valemot, lachen samach libi, ויגל כבודי, אף בשרי ישכון לבטח.
I am ever mindful of the eternal presence. God is at my right hand, I shall never be shaken. So my heart rejoices, my whole being exults, and my body rests secure.
אנוש כחציר ימה, כציץ השדה כן יציץ, כי רוח רבו בעינינו ולא יכירנו עוד מקומו. וחסד אדוני מעולם ועד עולם על יראיו, וצדקתו לבני בנים.
Mortals, their days are like those of grass. They bloom like a flower of the field. A wind passes by and it is no more. Its own place no longer knows it. But the steadfast love of God is for all eternity, for those who revere the eternal. And God's beneficence is for children's children. We'll turn now to the private prayers of Yizkor. And we'll keep these on the screen for a few minutes so that people can recite them. Miriam Bat Dober Ada Shachalama Hinini Dead Staka Imot Min Chanetzach Zen Skorim Nishmati Mimoti Zhuti Tabat Sabig Esther Shachalama Hinini Dead Staka Vataskar Nishmata Natina Shatzra Bitzvot. Amen. As we're continuing to share the screen of relatives. We invite you in the chat, if you'd like, to share the names of those for whom you recall on this day. Bye-bye. We lovingly recall the members of our congregation who have passed away since we last gathered in the sanctuary of sacred space of being together. They have a special place in our hearts. We pray this day that all who have sustained the loss of loved ones in the year gone by be granted comfort and strength. Exalted, compassionate God, comfort the bereaved families of this congregation. Help us to perpetuate the worthy values in the lives of those who are no longer with us, whose names we respectfully recall today. May their memory endure as a blessing, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
To turn now to the El Malei Rachamim for our departed, we invite the Chazan to lead us.
El Malei Rachamim Shochen Mameromim Hametzei Menucha Nechona Tachat Kanvei HaShekhinah B'malot Kedoshim U'Teharim Kezohar Harakiyat Meirim U'Mazhirim Et Nishmot Kol Eile Shel Kihilat Kodesh Beth Tzedec ומשפחותם שהזכרנו פה היום לברכה שהלכו לעולמם ואת נשמות אחינו ואחיותינו חיילי צבא לישראל שמסרו את נפשותיהם על קדושת השם העם והארץ מנשרים קלו ומאריות עברו ואת נשמות הטהורים שנהרגו על ידי מחבלים ואת נשמות חיילי קנדה שעמדו נגד אויבינו שעמדו נגד et nishmot sheshmeot ribavot alfei Yisrael anashim nashim v'atam shenevdu shenechneku shenishchetu v'nisrafu ba'esh v'shenikberu chayim al kiddush Hashem ba'avur she'anachnu kulanu mitpalalim ba'ad chaskaratam nishmotehem began Eden tehei benuchatam Anna balarachami yastirei besete knafam leolamim Bitzro achayim et nishmotehem Adonai hu nachalatam Yizkor akedatam v'yanuchu b'shalom al mishkevotam v'nomar Amen.
Cantor, let's recite Psalm 23 responsively, you and I, in the Hebrew and the English.
Adonai roi lo echsar
The Eternal is my shepherd, I shall not want.
binot desha yarbitzeini al mei menuchot yenahaleini
God gives me repose in green pastures, leading me beside still waters.
nafshi yeshoveh yancheni v'ma'aglei tzedek lema'an shemo
God revives my spirit and guides me in paths of righteousness, for that is God's essence.
Gam kielech begeit salmavet lo hirara ki ata imadi.
Though I walk in the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me.
Shivtecha umishantecha hema yenachamuni.
Your rod and your staff comfort me.
Ta'aroch lefanai shulchan neged zorai.
You prepare a table before me in the presence of my foes.
Dishanta v'Hashem roshi kosi revaya.
You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows.
Ach tov v'chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai.
May goodness and kindness follow me all the days of my life.
V'shavti b'veit Adonai le'orech yamim.
So that I dwell in the house of the Eternal forever. This time we turn to the words of Mourners Kaddish. I ask that you pause for a moment and reflect on the people whose memories, whose stories, whose treasure you recall at this moment. We'll unmute everyone, and then after the pause, we'll recite the
this moment.
Right, the value.
Tal, Nagash, Shemay,
Rabba,
Aman, Kadash Merabah, Yamad Ibrahim Tehya Mahmateh,
No idea what that is, Barry. I don't even know what that is. Mantravi,
Shlama Rabba Michin,
Greet everyone now. We ask you to stay with us for a couple more moments. We're going to turn now to a Misha Berach for those who are ailing in our community. We keep in mind not only those that are specifically within our Beth Tzedec community, but really all who are ailing in the GTA, in Canada, and around the world. As we recite this Misha Berach, the Refuah Shlema is Rufat Nefesh Ufat Guf. It's a prayer for Shlemut. So this is a prayer for healing. And our prayers for healing are not only for those who may be sick and suffering from an illness or from a virus, but we also want to extend our prayers for the healthcare providers and all the support people that are keeping the supermarkets open, the Costco's open, everybody that works at every level of supporting the medical professionals, people in government, all those who are working so hard all day long to make sure that in this crisis, our basic needs and supplies and well-being are cared for. After the Misha Berach, we'll put on the screen Debbie Friedman's Misha Berach that the cantor will sing, and then we'll just conclude with a couple important reminders and announcements. Misha Berach Avitina Abraham Yitzhak Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel V'Leah Yivarech V'Rpei Et Kol HaCholim B'Kila Gdosha Uva'olam Malei HaKadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Alehem Lachzikam Urapotam V'Yishlach Lahem Mehera Rufuah Shlema Min HaShamayim Rufat HaNefesh Rufat HaGuf B'toch Sha'arei Chol Yisrael V'yichazek et Yidei ha'oskim b'tzorcheihem Hashta b'galan zman kariv v'nomar Amen. May God, who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah, bring blessing and healing to all those who suffer illness. May the Holy One mercifully restore them to health and vigor, granting them physical and spiritual shlemut well-being, together with all others who are ill, and strengthen those who tend to them. We hope and pray that healing is at hand, and let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Enter.
Misha Berach Avoteinu Mekor HaBeracha Leimoteinu. May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say Amen. Mi sheberach imotenu b'kol haberacha lavotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
Amen. For those who are counting, today is the 5th day of the Omer. This evening, you'll count the next day. Yaakov Fruchter, our Director of Community Building and Spiritual Engagement, created a wonderful Omer chart of chesed, of kindness. And the suggested, recommended act of chesed, of kindness today, the 5th day of the Omer, is to send someone a thank you note. This chart of chesed for the Omer can be found on our website, as can be all the activities and opportunities that we provide for engagement and for shlemut at this time of crisis. As always, we invite you to be in touch with us so that we can be in relationship with you and respond to your needs, whether they're physical, spiritual, or emotional at this time. We want to remind everyone to continue to follow the regulations of the health authorities, to stay home, and only venture out for essential services. And if you need help with that, to please contact us as well. I want to wish everyone a Chag Sameach and a wonderful rest of the holiday. I want to thank my colleagues for helping to navigate this morning's Zoom Yizkor, and thank them really for all the work that they do day in and day out. And we want to thank you for all the work that you do to help keep this sacred community as meaningful as it is. My last reminder is that if you'd like to join us as a volunteer in contacting members of the synagogue to make sure that we are in touch with everyone and that we are able to meet people's needs, we very much would welcome your time and ability to do that. Please contact Clara Ram or Yaakov Fruchter, and they'll be happy to give you a list of people to call. Thank you again, everyone. Modin l'simcha, Chag Sameach, and we'll continue to be in touch and to make spiritual nearness at this time when we are physically separate.
Mincha's at 4 o'clock.
Mincha's at 4 o'clock. Thank you, Rabbi. Mincha's at 4 o'clock.